Welcome to Business Leadership Podcast. In this podcast, I interview successful business leaders and industry experts to help you grow your business. In this episode, I had an interesting discussion with Mike Salvata, president at a Pivotal Integrated HR Solutions and a managing partner at ActivPayroll. Pivotal Integrated HR Solution is a leading provider of a broad-based HR services to small and mid-sized businesses. The company partners with the clients to provide outsourced HR, payroll, staffing, and recruitment solutions to meet human capital demands of today's business environment. Where Active Payroll is a global payroll, international payments, global mobility, and HR in one solution, allows business leaders to pay their people compliantly on time, every time worldwide. Mike Salvata has been with the Pivotal team over 30 years. In current role, he is responsible for leading and overseeing integrated solutions division, which includes HR and payroll services offering. Over 3 decades of experience in industry, Mike brings a wealth of knowledge and expertise to HR departments. This was very interesting discussion considering current economical challenges. As a business leaders, we spend a lot of our time on dealing with the people challenges, whether it's management, employee training, leadership challenges, or team collaboration, or conflict resolution challenges. In our discussion, Mike shared insights, first of all, how to minimize these challenges and how to overcome some of these challenges. He also talks about importance of onboarding new staff, staff experiences, and also staff goals, how to build staff goals to align with the business goals, and also how to track a progress and stay on top of these goals. Mike also shared insights on his triangle approach, what business leaders can use that triangle, first of all, how to overcome upcoming challenges, and also use this triangle to scale their businesses and grow their companies. Hope you enjoy this discussion as much I did. If you do, don't forget to share this with your friends. Until next time, please welcome Mike Salvata. Hi guys, welcome to Business Leadership Podcast. Today our guest is someone very special, Mike Salvata from HR, Pivotal Integrated HR Solutions. Mike, the area of your expertise, everybody needs more help, managing HR's side of things or payroll. So I'm looking forward to a discussion, looking forward to learning from you. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Gurmeet.
Okay, welcome. So if you walk us through, Mike, what is a Pivotal Integrated HR Solution is about? What do you guys do? And walk us through how long you've been doing it.
Yeah. So first, we've been doing this for 43 years. And Pivotal started as a staffing company, basically. And that's, HR wasn't really a very evolved profession 25, 35 years ago. But with more legislation, more laws, more complexities with individuals and people, the HR profession grew.
Mhm.
We are basically a outsourced or fractional HR department for companies that don't have HR. So that's usually the SME market. It could be larger companies with limited HR, and we supplement their HR teams. But we look after everything from hiring to engagement, motivation, compensation, performance management, risk management, safety. It's the full gamut of HR. Um, as it's being done on a fractional basis, organizations don't have to invest in 3, 4, 5 HR people. They get a team concept from Pivotal, and they get the right amount of resources for whatever projects or whatever issues they're facing at that time.
Mhm. So it's like a HR. You're just not sitting inside the company, but it's the exact same approach. If they had a full blown HR department, is that the concept?
Yeah, well, actually, our delivery model it's pretty vast as well. So we would have what's called a help desk model for pretty small organizations. So that's usually people or organizations with 25 and less people.
Mhm.
Uh, once most of that can be done remotely, but we also will come on site to do, special project training and development, lunch and learns, or even difficult terminations. Once a company crosses over 45 or 50 people, we usually incorporate the same service, but some on-site time as well. So we could be at a customer 1 day a week, one day every 2 weeks, once a month, twice a month, and, we have a couple of customers where we're there 4 days a week. They're lar
And
they're large.
nice, nice. So is it a nationwide or is it a province wide? What's your footprint looks like, Mike?
Yeah. Well, the best customer for us is one where the decision makers are in the GTA. So we're headquartered in Oakville. We have offsite offices, uh, one in Cambridge and one in Brampton. But
Mhm.
really, a good customer for us is where the president or general manager or owner resides somewhere in the GTA, and his leadership team is in the same area. Now, we'll supply services to all their remote locations, but we usually want the decision maker to be within a couple hours drive.
Got it. You can meet with them and you can solve the problem what they up against and you can.
Yeah, even US, I mean, to every province for sure, we support and do everything from, again, contracts, safety, compensation. But even in some states, we'll also support that Canadian business.
Got it. So when you work with the business leaders, Mike, what is the key problem they're looking to solve? When they're looking for help somewhere, do they know first of all what problem to solve, or you gotta educate them what problem to solve, and then you solve the problem, or how does that work? Like, or what is business leader who are watching or listening to us, what they gotta look for? What is the key problem? Is it a management piece, or which side of the problem that you solve generally?
Uh, Both. So usually, um, there's something that's bothering the leader. It could be something that blew up in the last 2 days. It could be something that they've been trying to do but haven't been able to get it done over a period of time. So that usually drives the phone call, or the outreach. However, the very first step that we engage with our customers is a needs assessment. So we take the stuff he knows, and we
Hmm.
put it right here. We don't lose track of that. But we also want to find out what he doesn't know, and what may be impacting his bottom line. So we'll come in and we'll talk to a cross section of managers and in some cases employees, and we're looking at how's the employee relations, how's turnover, how are a lot of these other leading indicators of how well the human capital is working in a business, and we provide them a report saying, you know, here's the benchmark for turnover. Here's where you are. Here's some suggestions on why we believe your turnover is where it's at and what you can maybe do to deal with it. And we just go through all the different elements of HR and produce basically what we call a tactical action plan. Um, we don't believe that HR should be reactionary. It should be proactive. So by building this plan with milestones and timelines and and key performance indicators, that business leader has a good idea of the actions he wants to select. He's not going to take the whole list, but uh, he's going to say, "I never really thought of that." And yes, you're right. Our compensation as a percentage of sales is going out of control, or our benefit costs as a percentage of employee salaries is too high. So we dig into all the different aspects of HR, and where things are going well, we point that out. So do more of the things you're doing well, but where things are maybe trending in the wrong direction, or in some cases they may not have been aware that they're not in compliance with certain aspects of the law, then usually we would encourage them to get back in compliance
Hmm.
on those areas. So we end up with a critical action plan, and that formulates the service model for the next whatever 2 months,
Yeah.
6 months, a year. Our longest customer um, is about 26 years, and customer stays for about 3 or 4.
Ah, I mean, especially, for you guys in a business to stay relevant in a business local 43 years, that's a long time. But especially what we saw for last 3, 4 years, Mike, a lot of us,
changes happen, right? So especially in your area, when COVID happened, human capital was a very hard to manage, right? People used to work in office and they work remote, so that was a difficult piece for a lot of business leaders I was talking to. That how do we manage people? How do we deal with this HR side of things? What have you seen some of the biggest changes what happened, and how do you manage those some of those changes that happened over the last few years?
Yeah, we still got the remnants of COVID occurring. So yeah, it was very difficult for, you know, most businesses had all their processes set up and how things worked and how knowledge was transferred and how people communicated with each other. And then when everybody was sent home, it just blew it up.
Yeah.
And there was there wasn't really any rules or processes on how to handle it. Now everybody thought there was going to be, a couple of months on, and then everything comes back and that's it. I mean, we're 4.5, 5 years out, and companies are still having difficulty unwinding their
Mm.
remote policies and whatnot. Employees have made it difficult to get people back into the workplace. They're still not collaborating well. Businesses haven't got processes set up on how to manage performance and how to communicate better, et cetera. So we're still dealing with a lot of that. And now, um, probably some of the newer challenges is there's so many different generations in the workplace now, and they all have different expectations. They all have different wants and needs, and most organizations are struggling on how to blend all the different factors together. And if you're a new manager or even a manager maybe with not that much experience, managing all these diverse groups and you know, people that have different value equations. Some people value work-life balance more. Some people value the dollar bill. Uh, Others want to be engaged and motivated. Others want to have a career path. So
Mm.
um, we're spending a lot of time training managers on how to work and manage and engage and keep motivated all the different groups.
Oh, that's gonna be a challenge, especially the expectation from each generation is different, right? The new generation, their expectations are completely different. They're looking for more practical solution than simply tell them, okay, this needs to be done. They want somebody to walk the walk so they can follow that, right? So instead of somebody telling them what needs to be done. So I think it's a different way of managing and different way of you're gonna need a different skill set to manage these people instead of just providing instructions.
Yeah, yeah, leadership's not easy anymore.
Mhm.
And I think that's one of the value adds that we're able to bring is we're objective. So, seeing as we're not an employee and we don't like the word consultant, like we are actually a part of that individual's leadership team. We're on site. We work, we work with the leaders to help manage through all their people issues. But I think what we bring to the table is because we are objective, we are really looking for the right answer that benefits the employee, benefits the managers, and benefits the business. If those
Mhm.
three aren't benefiting, if it's a win lose, then that's where you get turnover. And there, there's a statistic that um, I really look at a lot. People, uh, researchers are saying that most organizations, um, the level of engagement of their staff, engagement would be defined as people that are pretty happy in their job and plan to stay there for at least another 2 or 3 years, if not longer. That number is hovering in the mid 20s as a percentage. If you look at it the other way, 75% of your employees are thinking of leaving, aren't that happy, aren't engaged. So, um, from an HR perspective, if you can move that index up, it has a direct correlation with your business performance and your profitability. So we're constantly looking for ways to the key areas of HR to me is attract. How do we find the best and brightest? Do we have processes in place to do that? Once we've got somebody, How do we onboard them? Statistics also say that if people aren't onboarded well and you don't capture their hearts and minds in the first 3 to 4 weeks, they don't feel a part of the organization and they may leave. Keep in mind that resumes are floating around out there for at least 2 months after somebody's already accepted a job. So if they're not happy, if you haven't onboarded them well and they get that phone call,
Mhm.
you may lose them. So how do you onboard them? Next is how do we engage them? So that's a big one. What processes? That could be communication, it could be performance management, it could be compensation, it could be benefit plans. But how do we make sure that they feel a part of this organization and want to be here, enjoy, think they made a good choice, and want to be here? So after we've got them engaged and got all the mechanics down of processes and policies and all that, now we move into um, a factor of risk. So, is there a risk? Do you have your contracts set properly? Are you meeting, or at least uh, you know key legislation? Are we on top of that? Key policies
Mhm.
on top of that? Are we doing a good job of communicating? Possibly town halls. Um, there's some good um, benchmarks for this, um, because it doesn't matter what you think your business is like. You can say your business is fantastic. We treat people well, and of course they want to be here and they're engaged. But what do employees think? And there's some great benchmarks out there. Um, you'll see some organizations will qualify for, you know, uh, great place to work, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And those are employee voted awards. So employees are saying, yes, the management team communicates. I feel like I'm valued here. I understand what's going on. I'm treated well, et cetera. So I use those surveys, um, of which we're very familiar with. We've qualified for many, 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 um, as a benchmark to assess, have we got an engaged workforce? Where, if we don't, where are the gaps? Because there's tons of good research which says the higher the engagement rate, the more efficient, productive, or customer serving your organization becomes. And obviously, if that index goes up, typically costs are controlled and profitability increases.
Ah, very interesting. So we can do all the stuff from HR side of things, Mike. But how big the role leadership plays in this? The leader has to be the key who drive all these initiatives, right? He's the one who's got to communicate with the team. And I heard many numbers say, listen, it's not people don't quit on a company; they quit on a leader first before they quit on a company. So if you can talk about the leader's responsibility, how big the role the leader plays in this whole, managing expectation and managing people.
100%, it's all about the leader. And, it's difficult because, um, leadership has two components to it. So one, uh, you have to have obviously some business savvy and some knowledge around how to run a business and your products, your services, your go to market. All those things are important. But equally important is how you manage people, how you treat people, how you connect with them, how do you build relationships with them.
Mhm.
Uh, some of the best leaders have people that'll go right through a wall for them. Other leaders have people that, you know,
Doing the jobs.
yeah, they're not even going to give an extra ounce of effort,
Yeah.
if be it. So it's being able to build. To me, leadership is the people side's the most important because if you can build those strong relationships, trust, and two-way trust, and uh, where an employee feels that you've got their back, you're not just going to jump all over them if they make one mistake. Um, you're going to end up with an easier time managing that department and those people than if you have conflict or lack of trust.
Very interesting.
So we do a lot of leadership training, but
Because you need that. Well, most business leaders, I can speak of the one I communicate with all the time. We don't come from a people management background. We come from technical background or some sort of business skill set. We open up businesses and then we grow that way. So we never have we never had that's not their strength. Managing people sometimes not their strength. And plus, on top of that, everything is the economy is changing, right? There's a lot of pressure to focus on a revenue, focus on a business side of things, that you kind of lose sight of sometime people side of it's hard to find a balance between those two. And I think that's where the challenge comes in. That's where somebody like you, because there's so many blind spots left, because you focus on something else. That's where we need somebody like you to discover those blind spot and refocus on those, so we don't lose the insight of people and that those connections and the trust that we build for people.
yeah, and it's a two-way street too. So I spend a lot of time um, teaching our HR people about line management. Ideally, if I can find an HR person that had done some line management,
Hmm.
that's the best fit of all, because until you've managed a department and experienced the frustration of nobody showed up, and now I'm shipping late, or inventory errors and I can't find orders and shipping late, or the whole variety of problems that an operational person experiences. Once you understand what it's like to be in operations, um, and had you solve problems with people while you're doing that, that's invaluable training for our HR people to work with our line managers. So,
Hmm.
we make sure they understand that we're here to make sure that they succeed. And when you've got some people challenges, there are ways to get everybody back to the finish line and
Yeah.
and move forward. So it takes a little bit of having a good relationship with those managers, getting them to trust that, you know, we're not just doing the fuzzy people thing. They are skill sets, they're tools, they're just like a professional engineer has tools and skill sets. HR people have skill sets as well on how to reduce conflict, how to, repair relationships, and how to build a high performing team.
Hmm. So one of the conflict, or not a conflict, but challenge I see a lot of businesses. You mentioned that with the HR side of things. During this COVID whole 3-4 years, people gone through a lot of stressful environment. There's if families getting sick, family members getting sick, or somebody dealing with health challenges, or and there was a lot of stress in a COVID. But one of the numbers I was looking at, that mental health challenges rose so much during these last few years, and people are struggling with it. And business leaders from HR standpoint, you got to manage these people and you got to help them and to achieve whatever to line everybody on the same page. How big the challenge was for it created for HR, and where you see um, how could we help employees to deal with some of those challenges, and then still produce. For business leaders, they're gonna manage these people as well, right? It's challenge for them as well. You in the Zoom call sometimes is good, the way we talking, but you don't know what's going other side of that Zoom call, right? Employee people probably working from home, and the next sitting to them could be a family member who's struggling with some challenges, health challenges. So how do you navigate these waters, and how do you help our business leaders with it?
Well, that's actually a great question. I can tell you, I spent a ton of time today on that very thing. It's become a large component of HR work. We call it medical management. Right? So um, we're constantly looking at uh, y- you. You have to expect that a certain percentage of your workforce, at some point or another in their career, are going to have challenges, mental health challenges, family challenges. They got divorced, they lost loved ones, whatever.
Mm.
Uh, there's no way to sidestep that. So, um, having processes in place, we always work with our customers to make sure we've got good benefit plans, because when the pressure's on, um, they need to be able to get the medical care that they need. An employee assistance program, running maybe webinars or benefit companies usually have all sorts of flyers and self-help and, gym memberships or whatever. Um, and there's more people today are on short-term or long-term disability as well. So those are obviously the ones that have gone beyond a week of problem, you know, and whatnot. They're more chronic, and being able to show some compassion and some ability to work with that employee to medically manage, slowly bring them to the point where maybe they can return to work on a limited basis with some restrictions, being aware of those restrictions and accommodating restrictions where you can. Sometimes they're just too much for a company to accommodate. But um, the real benefit in treating people well when they're not well is
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily it's great for the employee that's struggling, but the real value is all the other people. You want to build trust, you want to build loyalty, you want people to stand and have your back, then have theirs.
Mm-hmm.
And people will judge a leadership team and a company by how they treat people when they're not doing well. And if you show that you actually care about them as human beings, there's other strategies you can use. You can uh, hire a temp for the short term. You can redistribute the work. You can get a manager to take on a bit more line responsibility. There's always something you can do. Um, but if you show that care and compassion to the person who's not well, that sends the best message you could possibly send to the other people. It says, when shit happens to you, we're going to be behind you and we're going to
Mm-hmm.
help you and stand behind you as well.
Yeah, I was talking to one of the business leaders in aerospace. I'm like, that the biggest challenge they were dealing with simply sometimes they don't know what's going on, and the employee themselves haven't identified that they're struggling with this. So helping them to diagnose that and finding out where they are, I think that was, he was alluding to, that's the biggest help. So they were trying to find a way, how could we ask people to go through this review or take on this some sort of assessment and find out where you are at that point. Because sometimes you just don't know what's going on. It could be affecting you, mental health, but you have no idea what's going on, right? And the business leader other side, when you're working remotely, they have no clue what's going on other side, right? So it just identifying that in what the challenges are and then helping them through. That could be one of the avenue, right?
Yeah. And a nice way to do that is so I'm a fairly big believer that you don't just hire employees, you hire their families too. And so whatever's going on in that realm is possible that it'll impact your business.
Yeah,
So
definitely does.
yeah, so market to the family. Send the send the EAP flyers home every so often. You know, contact, make it broadly known and widely understood that we do have these resources, and if the employee themselves don't necessarily see it, maybe their partner or someone else may see it. And if it's widely, um, funny enough, uh, probably the number one area from the in addition to the employee themselves, if you set a culture that we care and people believe you care and they see the tools that the company will have for people that are struggling and whatnot, and there's no reprisals, there's no negativity. We don't you know penalize people for being sick. The number one uh, place that you're going to get referrals is from coworkers because they trust you and they see when somebody's struggling, and they will come and say, I'm not too sure, Bob's having a tough time of it. I know he's got something going on at home and he's just not himself at the workstation. And sometimes you get leads like that. And then of course you can uh, if you have good relationships, and that's probably the key. Building trusting, good relationships with your employees is a ongoing job. You don't have something tough to talk about on Friday, so I'm going to start building a relationship with them on Monday. It's earned over a long period of time, and if you build that level of trust and relationships with your employees, they have no problem with you coming to them, and they see that you care. They know who you are. They know how you treat people.
Very interesting. So I wanted to get your take on the labor market. What do you where we are? Lots going on economically, and that social side, and also politically. Where you see the Canadian talent market is in, where we lacking? Do we, I was talking to somebody. They said, listen, the cost of retraining somebody in our business is a much bigger cost because people not coming with talent they're looking for. Now, where you see that, what are your thoughts on, you've been working with a lot of business leaders. Where you see the talent situation in Canada?
Yeah, so that's a good question too. I think Canadian business hasn't invested enough in training dollars in the resources they have. Listen, nobody's coming with 100% of the tools that you need.
Hmm.
Yeah, maybe once in a while, but by and large, when you make a hire, you're making a few compromises. You know, well, they don't have this, but they got this, this, and this, and they may not have that. But despite our best plans, and we've written it down, we got to train them on you know quality control or this or that. Rarely does it get done. A good benchmark, a company that really is um, reinvesting in their people and building a good workforce should be spending between 2 and 2.5% of their payroll on defined training. I would say most companies are probably around 1 or less.
I thought even 2% was lower. In my industry, is number is much higher. But if that's the average, I assume that's how it goes, right?
Yeah, well, you're in technology though, so I mean,
Yeah. So ours is much higher. So okay.
that's a 24/7 training.
Yeah. So 2% is average. What you're saying that's
It's gonna be at least 2%, 2%, and in real dollars, let's say a 50 to a 70 person company probably has about $5 million payroll. Let's right. So how many of them are spending? What is that? 200,000, I guess. 2%.
Mhm. So what? Yeah, but we imported a lot of students from overseas without vetting the skill set. I think that's where the gap lies, right? So we have this. We brought a lot of people from overseas. A lot of them were students. They came with a good conscience. They wanted to, go to school and then they want to train. But that's a labor market for very low level skill set, right? So these are not a skill set that businesses need to grow and excel. That's what I'm finding for a lot of business leaders, right? So they're saying if we take somebody who came on a student as to be a student and we employ them full time, by the time we bring them up to speed, what needs to be done, there's a huge gap. The investment is not at 2%. That's a much bigger number what they're looking at. Is that what you're finding for your assessment for a lot of business leaders, or are you thinking different way?
Well, I just think it depends on the industry, but let's look at 4 or 5 areas that I believe businesses did a much better job um, 10, 15 years ago, and and to me, uh, we should be doing the same job now. So when I look at development, skills, etc., um, you know, from white collar to blue collar, people used to go for much more, and COVID kind of slowed that down, but a lot more on-site training at universities and colleges, um, apprenticeship programs, um, uh, what do you call it?
Internships.
Well, succession planning, high
Hmm.
potential planning, all of those staples of development and training. Most companies did that 10, 15 years ago. Not today, and there's probably an overriding reason because the um, employer today expects their hire to come equipped with everything they need. They don't necessarily set time aside or money aside to do training and development or succession or high potential. It always surprises me when somebody, above the level of manager quits and they don't have a ready successor ready to go. You know, which are your key positions, and you should have a successor for each one of those. The other problem I think is the Canadian economy hasn't done that bad. We haven't had what I would call a real recession in a long time. So our markets have been expanding, our our hiring needs have been expanding, and we really don't have the applicant market to fill all the vacancies that we've had. And so if you can't find the the number of quality applicants in the marketplace, then you better build your own and start out.
Yeah, I think that is the way to go. You got to start building those people up. Good stuff. So, where you see any big, from a HR standpoint or from your, other line of a service, where you see some of the changes coming down the pipe? You see any big changes coming, or it's gonna be similar challenges over the next, couple of years we gotta deal with, Mike. Business leaders who looking to scale their companies, looking to build their companies again. And what are some of the stuff they have to get ready if they're going to scale their companies?
Yeah. So I think most Canadian companies are fairly entrepreneurial. They're fairly innovative. We're known for having decent products and services. Um, we're fairly resilient to changes in the marketplace and whatnot. But um, I look at what I call the capital triangle, and you've got to be doing well in all three to constantly grow, constantly outperform yourself, and be a successful company. So the first one is operational capital, and that's the one that most entrepreneurs are probably fairly decent at. They probably came out of the operational side of it. Whatever it is that they do, they know it inside and out, and so they check the box there. That's no problem. The second one is financial capital, and again, um, it's been a little bit of a roller coaster as far as financing, and a lot of Canadian entrepreneurs are maybe not as risk taking as our other countries, but I think in most cases there's enough financial capital around that entrepreneurs can get what they need to buy new equipment or invest in new markets or do what they want to do there. The third one's human capital, and that's the one where I believe the companies that do an amazing job in the human capital side are going to outperform their competitors every time. And what do I mean by human capital? If you're an entrepreneur, you need to be able to check the boxes and sit down and say, I have the best and brightest. I have a great team. My weakest link is stronger than my competitor's strongest link. So we have a great team, and they're engaged and motivated. They stay around. The cost, by the way, let's take a mid-level job in most industries. Harvard Business Review said the cost of turnover is about 90% and up to 125% of a person's first year salary.
Wow, so it's almost double the salary.
Yeah, because all your customer capital or operational capital is lost. Your relationships are lost. That innate ability to take a problem and fix it because you've done it 25 times before is lost.
Yeah.
And um, so having lack of engagement, turnover, dissatisfied employees, um, that's going to hurt. That's going to hurt a business. So on the flip side of that, you got the best and brightest. They're engaged. They're motivated. They're 100% engaged in the culture. They do their best at all times. They may not be perfect, but they do their best at all times. They have the right motive, that they look out for your business like it's theirs. You get that model of human capital, you get that culture of human capital, it can't not outperform your competitors.
And much easier to scale.
And much
Because you,
easier to scale.
yeah, adding more more people on already engaged people or already taking care of your business, adding more people, they're gonna just inherit the culture that you already built. Is much easier to scale that way because they're gonna integrate into that.
Yeah, and if it's poor culture and poor people, what they're gonna do is help you go bankrupt faster.
Multiply.
Yeah.
The solution multiply the same as the problems.
Right. And so, like, product and, operational and financial capital, that's pretty much most companies do that pretty decent. But I think it's gonna be the ones that really start to invest in human capital as a strategic competitive advantage. They're the ones that are gonna leap forward.
Wow, very interesting. Yeah, definitely business leaders who are looking to scale a company, that we got to focus on. There's a human capital side of the triangle. Other parts, yeah, definitely we can find the people to help us. But in the human capital, you got to take a lead on it. That's where you got to invest and get a scale. So what's for this year or next year? What's our plan for pivotal integrated HR solutions, Mike? Where are you guys heading to?
Yeah, so, we've, obviously, we've been around a long while, and, we've been very successful in growing our business. But, um, one of the things, our customers have said to me many times once they get to know us, they go, "Geez, uh, we didn't even know this existed. You know, I got people problems, I better hire an HR person." They had no idea that there was other ways to manage human capital. And, they kept saying, "You guys are like one of the best kept secrets." And I took that to heart, actually, over the last couple of years. So we're gonna be investing, quite heavily in, promotion and marketing. My goal is that, if somebody says the word pivotal to a business owner, they go, "I've heard of them. Where do I know them from?" Or, and, we're really gonna do a a a good job this year of getting our name out there, doing lunch and learns, doing, uh, you know, different, uh, promotional items and speaking engagements and whatnot, to get the message of human capital out there, because, uh, I believe it's not something people spend enough time thinking about. But if they actually do sit down, and when I give, chats, if I say to them, "If you could score your organization on a percentage basis and say, 'I am 80% satisfied with the A players that I have.' What happens if it was 90? If we could find the best and brightest and move it up 10 points." I believe 60% of my employees are engaged and will do what's best for my business, even when I'm not there. What happens if we move it to 70?
Yeah.
Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the message I'm trying to get out there is, it's no different than if, you use machinery. The process engineer goes, "If I could get 75% utilization and efficiency to 80, look at the value of the business." If the finance guy is sitting there saying, if we could, manage our money and get better turnover and better collections by 5 to 10%, look what happens to the business. Don't always think like that with people.
Yeah.
But that's really the message we're going to get out this year, is to say we're no different than any other department. If we can improve the people side of the business by some sort of percentage, you will benefit.
Yeah, potential is always a lot more than the current output, right? So if we can just tap into a little bit of potential instead of just the current numbers, we have a saying that work to potential, don't work to quota. It's simply, the potential is a lot more higher than your numbers that you're trying to meet.
Exactly.
Very interesting. So, I learned so much from our discussion. My business leader listening or watching us, on a channel, I definitely recommend that I reach out to you for conversation. Who knows where the discussion is going to go, but there's so much I learned. I'm sure everybody who's going to pick up phone and call you, they're going to learn so much from your discussion as well. So where can people find you, Mike, and how can they connect with you?
Um, Two ways. My email is msalveta at pivotalsolutions.com, or you can go to www.pivotalsolutions.com. There's contact pages. I'm quite easy to find. And LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn, and people connect with me all the time through LinkedIn. Probably
I'll put all those links below this video as well. People can simply click a button and then they can chat with you or simply ping you on LinkedIn and have a conversation. But I definitely highly recommend, people look into a lot of business leaders I've been talking to, Mike, what we coming through from, especially what happened with the tariff loss, it was a wake up call for a lot of us. And a lot of people look into, scale a company, to build the companies. And, you can scale a businesses, if you want to, without that human capital we talk about, right? So if they want to get a handle on that, I will recommend that, hey, reach out to Mike and have a discussion, see where the discussion goes.
Yeah, and if they come through your podcast, um, one of the things that I believe um, somebody always has to win first. So I vote you as a customer. And what I usually do, I talked about that needs assessment earlier. I do those complimentary. And the reason I do that is I want you, it's like test driving a car. I want you to see how we work, how we think, how we come to conclusions. And it really is a risk free for a business, because even if you uh, can't afford it, don't want to do it, whatever, you're going to have a HR business plan that you can act upon or do whatever you want with, and you'll get value out of it. But yeah, if they come through your channel, I'll do that complimentary.
Thank you. Thank you. There we go. So at least that will give you a different perspective and different health check on your health, HR department. And then what do you want to do with it? That's entirely your call. But at least you get a different perspective, plan what you want to do. And then, for your reference, and when you're ready to make a change, then reach out to you and get a help. But at least you get a different perspective. Great, great. I think that's a great help. Okay, good. I will include all the links below this video as well, Mike. And thank you so much for your time. I learned a lot, and I
Yep.
really appreciate it.
I really appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.